It's high noon in Kingston, Jamaica, and we're on the bridge, 99 FM. This is a media construct that unites Jamaicans wherever they are in the world. We reach out with strength and love today to all those who appreciate this country. Whether your navel string is buried here or elsewhere, maybe you've just visited us, maybe you're married to one of us, maybe you work with us. We're a proud nation. We're a good people striving to be better and best. This is what we do on the bridge, 99 FM. And this is the public eye. We have an open mind. We talk to you about the affairs of this nation without prejudice, but with an affection and a commitment to the upliftment of this nation, especially of the weakest. Our WhatsApp number is 876-551-5782, and the studio line is 876-676-4996. And you can download that mobile app from Android Play Store and the Apple Store. It's entitled The Bridge 99 FM. The Honorable Pernell Charles Sr. is a veteran trade unionist, Minister of Government, Speaker of the House of Representatives, public servant, and raw Jamaican. He joins me today on the public eye. Later on, Dennis Chung is going to join us, a well-known financial analyst, chartered accountant, now works with the Football Federation, a distinguished career in business. I want to ask him about this issue to do with wages and inflation. What's the answer? What hope can we give to our people? After that, further on down, Saffry Brown, she is the director of Project Star, which Keith Duncan, well-known business person, is leading to help underserved communities. How can people abroad help Project Star? And if we can, we'll ask the president of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, Mr. Lenworth Fulton, about this open season for the importation of chicken necks and backs. Is that a good idea? And we've sent a shout out, as they call it, to Mr. Liver Wright, who is president of the Association of Principals of Secondary Schools, to give us a back-to-school roundup. Schools in Jamaica resume next Monday. So an agenda for you today, and welcome your input whenever you'd like. Mr. Charles, greetings.
Greetings, Randy, greetings. I don't know if I am a happy man or I am a sad person, but let me first...
You don't look sad.
Well,
you have hope.
Yes. Let me first greet the diaspora people.
Sure.
And as you said, not only those who are born here,
no,
married from somebody born here,
I tell you,
but some total strangers,
yes,
who the Jamaicans have gotten to contribute to Jamaica.
Yes.
Some of them have never been here.
No.
And these Jamaicans are the real ambassadors.
Yes.
They are the one who thinking about the cousin and the auntie and the district from which they come and the school that is in that area.
That's what I want to hear more about today. How to tell us how people abroad who contribute to their schools so that education can improve.
Yeah.
If we can't count it up, sir.
Well, I tell you so, we cannot put a value on it either.
That's it.
Because when not for you, you have to speak for yourself. But for me, I speak for me, from where I was born and from where I got my early education.
Yes.
That could not happen now under the present, that would not happen now under the present atmosphere for education.
Yes.
Because here were teachers who cry, live in high water.
Yes.
If one of their child did not pass.
You have told us the story.
Here are teachers who go to and look for Miss Birdie in the hills.
Yes.
What happened to Jean?
Yes, she never come to school.
Never come to school.
Yes.
And so you better go to school because the teacher going to come. You got to go to school because your parents going to ask if you come. And that was dedication.
Sure. What was the origin of that?
I'm going to ask you, how much were they paid?
Very little.
I tell you how I used to pay my teacher. the biggest spear that I find,
You take it.
I put it up for teacher.
Oh, lovely. What a spirit.
And Mama said the biggest mango care for teacher.
Care for teacher.
And it's not me alone.
No?
And sometimes teacher don't have hand to carry home pear and banana
what
and
you
orange.
get, yes.
You understand? That was her pay because at that time, I don't know that they were collecting any money, but they were dedicated to
But what was...
creating.
Sure, because after slavery, and for the period right up until virtually 1950, 1960, the pre-independence period, there was that sense of validation that could only come through education and through community, religion, etc. And people understood that this was the only legitimate means of upward mobility. And you gained your spine. Marcus Garvey says people must have spines, not spinal bones, not wishbones.
Yeah.
And the teachers, even to go to Michael was to go to Oxford University.
Yes.
That was it. Philip Sherlock, Edwin Allen, J.J. Mills, Enid Dalton James, Howard Cook, all the rest, we could go on. This made the difference. Now, why have we diluted this over time? How do we, as importantly, how do we recapture that spirit now? The sense of community, the sense of a common purpose.
You have to give you an idea.
Yes.
I have looked at the teachers who are in my school. I look at the teacher who hold my hand to make sure that the common letters didn't touch the top line. I never forget that.
Yes.
And that the capital letter touch the top and come down to the bottom and go back up and come up.
Yes.
That stayed in my mind.
Sure.
But those teachers weren't teaching because they were teachers. And I'm not now taking on the teaching community because not them alone.
No.
A man is just shouting in politics too. Yes. We have some people who are not dedicated to help people in politics. We have some doctors, I don't know if it's true, but I hear that even give water for injection.
Oh my goodness.
You ever hear that?
No.
First year? You have, I walk into one of the big stores in Jamaica. I told you this last week. Big stores.
No.
And about 6 or 7 boys were in one place chatting. So I go up now like I'm the boss. Is this what I hire you guys for? Aren't you supposed to be working? And they say, Mr. Charles, we know you, So I'm laugh. You said they were talking? They had a telephone. You said, Mr. Charles, tell me now, why the other boy them can use this telephone and get rich? And we have to work and can't get rich. Aye. I said, because you have a parents who teach you to be honest. You have a parents who at least send you to school. And those guys, they're living against one shot in their heart.
Sure.
As a criminal.
Sure.
Now, you're an honest man.
Why have we taught them that the supreme value in life is to get rich?
Well,
it's not,
But put it this way. That if that is bad, this is worse. How to get rich.
Well, indeed.
What he was saying is that if him just use him telephone and call a man America.
Scam him.
Him can get and scam him. Him can get enough money to live and buy a car and buy a house and enough work. Now that is the mentality.
So where do we start?
That we don't want in this country.
And therefore, if that is pervasive, and you're correct, yes? If that is an infection in the spirit and behavior of our people, then it behooves everybody who has any role of leadership, whether in the state or the municipality or the church or the microphone here, to try a new kind of education, a new kind of indoctrination. I use that word purposely. Yes? In order to say this is not the way to live. You don't have to live this way. There is no happiness in this way. In fact, there is so much danger that you ought to avoid it because, in fact, you could lose your life, as you pointed out to these youth.
There are 2 people that is in charge of you in a barn,
Right.
Your parents and your teachers.
Yes.
That is where your life starts.
Okay, but then many people...
No, there are many parents who cannot teach. So the teacher burden is even greater.
Sure. And then,
but if you carry the child to the teacher, and the teacher is a dedicated person, they're going to make something out of you.
Of course.
You remember that over I was struggling. My teacher tell me, if you can't take it in, I'm going to open your head and put it in.
You see that?
You understand me?
Yeah, so you're not...
That other teacher just saying, boy, stay back.
Yes.
I heard of teachers, don't know, but it is something to bring up, that when a boy is bad in the class, she put him in the back seat.
Yeah.
And when it is time for him to move up, them call him friend upstairs and say, listen, may I send you one? Him not learn nothing. Him there the whole year. And put him in the back seat, so make sure you have a back chair for him. Yeah. And he goes right through.
That's a death sentence.
Eh?
That is a death sentence, and it is not only a death sentence for that backward boy, however caused, but it's a death sentence to the society. And my contention, Mr. Charles, is that if we continue to do that, which unfortunately we do, because the outcome is well known, the outcome is manifest in nearly half of our students who leave school without proper certification to move ahead in life, and that is what is infecting and has a contagion in the society. And the Ministry of National Security is missing the boat, because rather than spend the billions on gun and bulletproof vests and ammunition, we need to deal with the youth sitting in the back of the class.
Well, I thought you were going to say earlier that you're not only creating a backward child, you are creating a killer.
Indeed.
Because he sees the worst that are the best of those who are in him and see what they're going to get, and him can't get it. Him have to take it.
Well,
that is why him say use him phone and get it.
So we need on this program we support a complete revolutionizing of people's thinking, which will allow us to deal with these problems. Some people are dealing with them very, very effectively. Give thanks for that. There are many people, there are many aspects of policy, there are many schools, teachers, parents, pastors, everybody who are doing the very best they can. But in the society, the warp of the society as a whole is not designated to make sure that everybody has a real opportunity and is corrected at the earliest stage when they come off the rails and have to be put in the back seat.
But Ronnie, my daughter, Pamela, who lives in Georgia, she's a doctor of internal medicine. That's the last daughter. And she came home 2 days ago. She said she wanted to be with me. Tomorrow is my birthday.
Oh, lovely.
But she's on a laptop. So tell me, you came to be with me. You know what she did?
What?
Teaching
her students up there.
All her students.
Yes.
In that she said she can't afford to wait for 4 days. So she's checking their homework, and she is giving them new
work to do. Yes, well, technology allows us to do that. In my view, we are bright enough, more than bright enough, to really deal with our problems instead of having the puss and dog war like what we had last week with Mr. Biles.
You remember that? One of our discussion, we said that we don't have enough maths teachers.
Yeah.
We have maths teachers. The technology can make one person teach 4 classes.
So why are we not using that, sir? Who
as a former minister of education.
I'm prepared to tell you what I feel.
No. I'm not accusing.
No,
I'm saying that
I have
we need to lift, because can you imagine what technology is going to be 10 years from now?
Exactly, and we don't want it to defeat us. We want it to enable us. And therefore, what we have to do is to make use of it. Instead, that next Monday morning, school is going to open, and a majority of our classrooms aren't fitted for the technology when they could be. 2, the things that the children have on their laptops, those who have them, or their phones, is pure naked woman and gunshot business.
Randy, who are you going to get rid of that?
Huh?
You all fought to get these.
So what you have, it's a question of using right what can also be used for wrong. Dennis Chung, greetings.
Ronnie, I heard you and Pernell just now. I came in late, so I don't know if you said that you were both looking at naked women on the phone.
Dennis, I am a worried Jamaican. Worried because from whence I came to where I am, and I look back, I have seen too many where I was, and there is no effort being made at no level in the society, as far as I'm concerned. Parents are absent because some of the children are bigger than the parents, bigger in size and bigger in control. Huh? I mean, Dennis?
Well, I tell you something, and I always remind Ronnie. When Ronnie was on 4106, he used to always say, we have to take care of the environment we live in, because you can't live on your own and expect that the environment around you is falling down and you're okay. And I always remember Ronnie made that statement.
Well,
and everything is coming to pass now.
It is. Dennis, help me. You're a chartered accountant, experienced business person, a fitness buff who traverses the island, man who we respect. I'm a minimum wage earner, and I am looking for a little better for me and for my children. And I hear the economy is doing very well. I hear that there's a fiscal surplus, and I'm facing back to school. And I know that I can't manage with the picnic that I have, may or may not have support of another parent, father or mother. And I hear, I'm looking to my employer to do something for me, significant. And I hear the Bank of Jamaica governor say, hold on, if we don't want to have prices increase through inflation, you've got to hold strain on your wages. What would be your reaction? What should I think?
All right. Well, the first thing is that, and I was actually away last week when they called me about, and I gave a recording. The BOJ governor should not have said that.
But what he said is true, isn't it?
Why shouldn't he not say that?
Is it true? Him telling a lie?
You're coming in and out, Ronnie.
Okay.
Let me say it for him. We believe that the Bank of Jamaica governor said the thing that reflect his position at his job in his organization.
Yeah, and that's true. But the fact is that as a regulator, there are certain things you don't say because you can influence decisions in a market, and that's not what you want to do.
Oh, I see.
So even though you have a personal opinion, right, you have to be cognizant of the position you hold. Right. So I have my personal opinions on many things. But I have to think about how it's going to affect the market, right, and how it's going to affect how people think. Because remember, the Bank of Jamaica is a very powerful place. So if you make a statement like that, people could read it and say, oh, this is the sort of policy that you're thinking of influencing in the future, right? You don't want to do that. Just like if you have to have a publicly listed company, before the results come out, there are certain things you just don't say. So I understand where he's coming from, and what he's saying is very true. But, if I, Dennis Chung, say it or any of you say it, it's a totally different thing.
Yeah, but he said, Dennis, he said he's speaking for an organization, and he's not the only man in the Bank of Jamaica. This is the committee that runs the system. He's not a one-man Bank of Jamaica.
Yeah, but I want to...
And that might be so. The committee needs to really just keep it to themselves and say it publicly. That's all I'm saying.
But I want to take it deeper than that, Dennis. What does the person who I described earlier, the kind of person who in the majority Pernell and I used to represent,
yeah.
Yes. What are we supposed to think? Where is the hope? Is there really? Should we really hold on in Jamaica, or should we try do something else?
Well, I tell you something. What we're experiencing is a global situation. So I don't you remember, Ronnie, during the pandemic with the lockdowns and Pernell, I used to say that the lockdown, the way that we're dealing with the lockdown globally is going to affect us in two ways. Crime is going to increase and inflation is going to increase. I think what we're seeing now is a manifestation of that. Because remember what we did, we locked down the world and reduced production, right? So goods production was reduced. And at the same time, we gave stimulus money that had no productivity behind it. So what happened is that you create a situation where you had a lot more money chasing much fewer goods. And we are no exception to that. Now, we can argue if it's necessary or not, because definitely you couldn't let people just
people
be
have
out
to
here
eat.
without money.
Yeah,
right?
they have to eat.
But let's understand the consequences of it. That's what
But Dennis, you say we lock down these things. As far as I am concerned, all the international public health or health services advise us that this is the way you have to go to prevent total wipeout of a population. In other words, you couldn't run to the bank, everybody going in one time. You have to line up all half mile to go in one.
No, but Dennis is not denying that was the impetus. He's saying this is a consequence of what what happened.
Yeah, but are you criticizing the consequence?
No,
I'm saying it is the reality of what we face now, and the high interest rate that we have now is as a result of that. No. What it means is that in order for us to change the equation, you cannot give people money and it sustains them in any meaningful way going forward. We have to raise productivity levels. Right? That's the only way we're going to change it. We must raise productivity levels. So even if we were to go ahead and give people increases now, without improving productivity, in a year's time, they're going to find themselves in the same situation again.
Okay.
Because inflation is going to happen. So what the BOJ governor said is correct, It's just that he shouldn't have said it.
Right. But then
but why shouldn't the father say what is to be done in the house?
Because
the mother or one of the pick-me have to say it?
No, because the father the father must stand up and tell the picnic, say you must stay hungry.
Yeah.
No.
That is the effect of it, sir. That is what the effect of what Mr. Biles is saying. That is why Dennis Chung is saying shouldn't say it, because the net effect of it, he's telling my person, yes, the minimum wage earner, looking for something better. Band and bellies believe better must come and it not come. Here, all the people talk about prosperity, and no prosperity did they? Yes, and then he hears just when him see people, some big people, yes, I get double a joint of money, 200% and 300%. Well, also, wait.
Call the number 42 people, not
no matter who.
Not 4 million people.
No, it no matter. Yes. It don't matter them run the show, and him hear that him see that. And him hear defense of that, yes? And then when it come time for him to get 5 more shilling, them say, oh no, you can only get 2 shilling.
But Daniel, let me ask and ask Dennis. And you want to convince me.
Morally, it's repugnant.
Listen, if I was sitting around the bargaining table, sure I'd want more money. But if I want more money and the producers increase the goods and service price at the same quantity, I said this to you, would it have been better off if I never get that money? And they kept prices at the bottom.
But it doesn't happen that way.
No, it doesn't happen like that, perhaps. And remember also that we're affected by something like the Ukraine war, which is totally out of our control.
Yeah.
So what we need to do, and this is why I kept saying over the past year or so, that the Heart Trust is an integral part of this. And I haven't seen them do what they need to do yet. Right? But we need to increase productivity levels of people. That's the only way that we're going to resolve this situation. We're not going to solve it any other way. Well, right? Because the truth is that, as I said, even if I were to take $100 million and give to somebody now and there's no productivity, inflation is going to go up and wipe out that $100 million. Right? And people are going to be in the same situation they were before.
You have gone further. You have gone further than many who in leadership have, because you have said that improved skills training is one way to improve productivity. I ask you, ask Dennis, ask Pernell, ask myself, where is the discourse on productivity taking place in this country now? I don't hear it.
There's not enough.
I don't hear any of it, sir. I hear some woolly stuff about people getting certified and stuff. But we need to. Douglas O'Rain says something. If you measure it, it can take place. We're not measuring it. We're not setting ourselves a target. What we're doing is arguing about an inflation-afflicted wage rather than how can I get more. I would want the Bank of Jamaica, gentlemen, who I have regard for, to say, look, here is the reality about wages and inflation, but here is more detail than just to say productivity. Here is where we have to move in order to increase the value of our output, in order to justify the 30 and 40% wages that we really need in order to buy dinner. And I would have expected our leaders, instead of fattening their own blasted pockets, hear me cuss, yes, they have no moral authority. Neither PNP nor JLP have no moral authority to tell the people of North Clarendon or Central Kingston that they must band them belly some more.
Roddy,
tell me it's lie.
Hold. I'm still a trade unionist. And I consider myself one of the better ones. I want to ask you and Dennis to tell me no. I am around the bargaining table.
You don't know.
Roddy Pernell is representing you as a trade union.
Yeah, I am around the bargaining table.
Tell me his lie.
And I am speaking to Mr. X, who have 100 workers.
Yeah.
And I want additional wage increase.
Yeah.
And I am also asking him, how can you increase productivity? No, Mr. Twait, you are the one asking. You have 100 workers and you have put them out in the factory. How are you going to increase productivity? Tell me.
I'm certainly not going to spend my surplus buying him two Mercedes-Benz and give him triple pay. That's certainly not what I'm going to do. Because
you need to do.
Hold it for a minute.
We do not believe in equality of opportunity in this country.
Don't get away from the point I want to make.
I'm
Dennis,
answering you directly.
I am saying every manager wants to produce more, but he wants it from the worker.
Yes.
And so he has to pay the workers more for them to produce more. Am I not? Is not so?
No.
But the governor is saying.
Yeah. What you need to do is that you need to, if you're a smart manager, then you set up your payment relating to performance. So, for example, you give an incentive payment maybe as a way at the end after you do an assessment, right? So you people who set up their businesses in that way will survive a lot longer, right? And that's just how the market works.
But
right?
you use the right word. People who set up their business that way, so that when you go out to a place and the man
says, hold on, no, tell me, no, pause, please just help me. If that is the way the market works, I'm very suspicious about the market, but we'll get to that. But if that's the way it works, tell me now, with the recent regrading and pay rises in the public service, where is the targets? Where is the accountability? Where is the increased performance?
You see what you have just done?
There's none.
You see what you have just done? You have just taken the management who have given the workers an additional amount of money. But you are asking me now, where is the feedback from them for production?
Of course, and it's not there. And what you have done,
is
the managers...
Is the system prepared for that?
Sir, the managers who have done this, yes, are not spending their money. They're spending our money. Yes, if they were spending their money, it's one thing. They're spending our money and giving it to those who no doubt deserve and want an increase, and many may deserve, without any reciprocal increase in productivity. Dennis Chung, tell me how that can possibly make a sustainable society.
It cannot, and that is why our dollar is 155 to 1 now. Because what we have been doing, if you look, particularly, I know during the 90s, we had significant increases in public sector salary. And we're at a stage now where we're 155 to 1 on the dollar. That is straight inflation, and depreciation. Right? That is what has caused it, the lack of productivity. We have declined in labor productivity every single year since 1972, except for 3 years in the 80s.
So?
A country cannot grow like that.
Yeah.
Labor productivity and total factor productivity has been declining.
Yeah. Well, and unfortunately, we don't even realize when we hear it continuing and we're embedding. I heard the young Minister of Agriculture last night on the television defending scraping off the topsoil of Jamaica for bauxite by saying virtually, we have to do this because we managed 1.5% growth in the economy, was it last quarter? And the basis on which that took place, all other sectors being anemic, was that we had 100% increase in bauxite and alumina exports. God in heaven. We're digging ourselves deeper into trouble and calling it a virtue. What the hell is this, man?
Yeah. Well, I think that we have a serious productivity problem in the country, and we're not focusing on the policies that are going to drive it. And I think that
focusing
we're trying
on
to do something, but we have such a rundown infrastructure now.
No.
The biggest impetus I think that we can get for saving foreign exchange and increasing productivity and improving standard of living is a good public transportation system. It hits all of those things.
Okay.
Where are you going to put that, Dennis?
Huh?
Where are you going to put that? Right now, we're taking every bus from Price Mart to Crossroad an hour and a half. So the people them send a car, take the bus, them have to find a car. So everybody put up the money and buy a car, and you have a total block up from Constant Spring to Crossroad.
Right, and therefore that's why we need a good public transportation system in place, right? So that we discourage people from driving their own cars. When we go to Manhattan or London or so, we don't drive cars.
Sir, we imported 25% more cars than last year than we did the previous year. We are moving in the wrong direction and calling it the right direction. Don't you see it? We're doing it. You read the papers this morning, Dennis Chung, Pernell Charles, and I'm amazed because we have now given open season for the importation of chicken neck and back. Now, who could be against giving poor people some kind of protein?
So what are you against?
What have we done in the last 62 years of independence to wean ourselves off foreign protein, where that which the American public don't consider trash, we buy? Some people, yes, and don't tell me I'm wrong, I know it, and it's one of the few questions I got answered during your parliament. Yes, there is a racket involved with chicken neck and back. Some of the most elevated people in this country extort money from $42 importation to $300 per pound of retail. Okay, and we are doing nothing. Make them go on. That we are doing nothing to substitute our own protein, but we are deepening our dependence on the what left of America. My God, is that this nation?
Dennis, let me ask you. I try to hold on here. Let me ask you. Again, I'm using my professional background. Any increase in prices, any increase in wages, in order to, well, the man is going to talk about production.
Ooh.
But is price control something that needs to be considered? Dennis? Hello?
And I wasn't hearing you just now.
Price control is one measure.
Can you increase wages, right?
And control prices
without increasing prices, right? Production, yes. But
no, you're evading the point, sir.
But
Dennis, your answer.
Yeah. You're saying if we can increase wages without increasing prices.
If you
can we control prices for goods and services?
No, controlling prices is not the way to go, because eventually, you see the way it works. If you try to control prices now, what you're going to create is a thing called a black market.
Don't we know that? Did we suffer that in the 70s and 80s?
Yeah. You're gonna have a black market, and you don't want to go there, because when you release that black market, it's going to be more explosive.
Dennis,
right?
Hold on 1 second for us, if you can.
Yeah.
When we come back shortly, we really need to canvass how we're going to increase productivity in this country. You mentioned the activity and the resources of heart, that and what else? Dennis Chung, chartered accountant, commentator. Soon come back. This is The Public Eye on the Bridge. Thanks for being with us on The Public Eye. We're talking to Dennis Chung. We're talking about inflation, wages, and productivity. And I'm going to put Dennis Chung in the driver's seat now. Dennis Chung, if you were making policy, what could we do that would reverse the decline in total factor productivity and improve the productive use of both labor and capital in this country?
Very, very simple. The first thing is that I would put money into providing a good public transportation system in place and a school bus system in place. I did some analysis a few years ago. It shows that we spend the equivalent of over $200 billion of productive hours just in traffic, driving on the roads.
Okay.
Right? If we were to reduce that by 50%, you're talking about $150 billion coming back into the economy.
Whoa.
For people to earn, right? So a good public transportation system. In addition to that, if you have a good public transportation system in place, 30% of our oil import is on transportation.
Yes.
If you reduce that by 15%, you're talking about maybe $300 million that you're saving on your import bill every year.
Yeah.
Right? The other thing, though, is that you can't improve an economy in terms of productivity in a society that is in chaos and disorganized. I would bring discipline to the roads. So we think that, for example, that by allowing people to go on the road and sell on the sidewalk, that we're helping them. But if you're encouraging people to do things that are low productivity, then that is what they'll do. What you need to do is put your things in place in such a way so that people are encouraged. Because remember, markets moving up. You put things in place and you encourage people to move towards the more productive things, right? So as an example, because crime pays, people go into crime. So we should be putting things in place. We should be putting measures in place, fines, penalties, just like normal countries, right, that discourage people from going into the less productive things. So crime is a big issue, right? And it's not just crime in itself in terms of murders, but the law and order issues, right? So I would put things in place to discourage that. And then I speak about places like the Heart Trust.
$13 billion a year. What would you do with that? That isn't being done now.
Well, what I would do with Heart is I would say to Heart, listen, you need to sit in a room with PIOJ, Planning Institute of Jamaica, the Students' Loan Bureau, and the Ministry of Finance. Determine what you want your economy to look like in 20 years' time. And from that, you say, okay, what is the skill set that I need? Right? So I've made a point all the while. The Students' Loan Bureau, for example, shouldn't be lending money to people who want to study the DNA of a raindrop, because that person not going to help us. We have limited resources, and then that now should be pushed back into Heart and say, Heart, you are the leading training institution in Jamaica. Why don't you, with all this information now, you're going to canvass all the educational institutions out there and say, how do we fill this skills gap? Because remember in the past few months, and maybe a year or two, we've been talking about the fact that there are skills that we need in Jamaica that we don't have.
Can you imagine? Even to want to import them.
Right. Those are the things that the Heart Trust should be doing, sitting in a room with PIOJ and all those stakeholders and saying, how are we going to use our limited resources to move and develop these skills?
What about what about energy? You mentioned the saving of energy. That's the public transportation system, if it's efficient, has a potential of curbing. Ratson Hammond will tell us all that it's not labor, but it's energy, which is a major cost factor of business efficiency. What should we be doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the use of energy comes as a result of how we organize the other things, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, energy, I agree, right? That energy we need to look at, and we should be looking at more renewable energies. But even before I get there, I hear that agriculture ministers from time to time, they celebrate, for example, that we're exporting 2 container loads of mango. That's rubbish, right? I can increase my tourism earnings by 5%, and it's a lot more money than increasing a lot of those non-traditional by 100%. Right? Tourism is my competitive advantage. Why am I not organizing, for example, let's take just one place, a hip strip, so that it is a place where people feel comfortable to come and stay and really get some top of the line treatment. Instead of paying then $250 a night per room, people would then pay $500 a night. Why am I not improving my connection between tourism and agriculture, tourism and the furniture maker? Right? So as I increase those things and set certain standards, I am increasing the linkages so that I'm retaining more of my tourism dollar. That is really where the productivity improvements come from, That is where the increase in the economy is going to come from. These are the things that we think about with don't make any sense. We need to prioritize public transportation, tourism, law and order. Those for me are the top 3 things that we need to deal with, because that will have an impact of maybe $500 billion on the economy.
Okay, I'll argue with you about education and health, but coming Pernell. But let's stay with you. Let me ask you the big question then. All of those things that you have suggested have been said before. Now, why is it that we don't do that which we say and generally think we ought to do? Is the political structure and arrangements of this country capable of generating the reform that people like Dennis Chung are proposing?
The problem is that we are afraid to take the decisions that we need to take and implement them, because the people that we cater to are persons who don't think that way, and therefore you find yourself in a vicious circle where the people that you're trying to help short term will lose long term because you're not taking decisions.
The people who you're trying to help short term will lose long term.
Yes.
My Lord.
But Dennis, let me say this to you. 2 things. At first, let me deal with the transportation system.
Yeah.
I was privileged to be Minister of Public Utilities and Transport.
Yes.
And I look back on what the first busman company, the big one.
Weedy?
Eh?
Weedy?
No, the big company, man. That
JOS?
JOS?
Jamaica, yeah, man. You had Mr. Weedy first.
Okay.
Then you had Jamaica Omnibus Service.
They used to run a bus company in Jamaica.
Disclaimer, Pernell, I'm not old enough to remember that.
They used to run a bus company. Yeah. I was living in country. And anytime that bus come from Kingston.
Oh, you mean Magnet and all those people, Mr. Edwards?
Anytime them blow, you know, say it's 3 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Them leave Kingston,
Yes.
and come all the way.
But your government, sir,
No,
our
hold on.
government,
Before you get the government, let me go a little
has
further.
given away the
Let me go a
custom.
little further. I heard you and Dennis talking about increased transportation system, where these 50 buses that come here,
The horse
where
government.
them going to drive?
Well,
Where you
why?
tell me?
Why? Because what we've done is
No. Don't tell me what we have done. You tell me what we need to do to tell me where you're going to get a bus, from Stony Hill downtown in an hour and a half.
Yeah. So Pernell, it has to be a natural transition. So 50 is not enough. 50 is good, but it's not enough. We need to be rolling.
No. I'm not saying it, Dennis.
Right.
That's not the line of it.
The other thing, though, is that we need to put policies in place to discourage people from driving, right? So, for example, we had this great idea about bus lanes, and it totally has gone. So people are moving faster. But we also need to make the bus system more secure and more comfortable. We can't have people preaching on buses. We can't have people holding up buses and expect that people are going to travel on them, right? And then when you talk about if we're really serious about energy usage, we should be charging people a premium, just like what New York and London does, to drive their personal cars into certain areas, like the New Kingstons and the downtown. Right?
Yeah,
What Pernell is saying, though, Dennis, and you can't get away from it, is that with the level of congestion on the roads, rural and urban, an efficient bus system with however many buses is going to be a nigh on impossible. And he's right. We ought to stop importing second-hand cars right now.
Yeah, but Dennis, you made a point a while ago, Ronnie. You tell me which political system
Well, that's the point.
that we have that can do what you and Dennis talking about.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
stop. I ask a man. I say, listen. I take a street where 15 people live, and each of them have 2 cars in them yard. So that's 30 cars in the one street. And them drive out the morning time. One have 2 people, one have 3 with the children.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, let us find that we only have 5 cars come out of the street, and we fill it with who live on the street. The man asked me how much car I have in my yard.
Yeah.
The point is this.
So what is your solution?
I don't know there's a solution.
So we're going to continue with the same foolishness we are now. The dollar will one day
Let me tell you what was Mr. Matalan's solution one
become
time.
200 and 250.
That we could have an overhead road from Stony Hill come down. The value of it then, you'd have to sell Jamaica now to do it.
Yeah.
The point is this. Yes, increase buses. Where are you going to drive them?
All right.
And I
We
made
have to have a solution to our problems, Pernell.
Eh?
We have to find a solution to our problems.
Well, I told you about the Sandy Gully. The Sandy Gully. It was on my desk.
Yeah, so the solution, Pernell, is that we need to discourage the use of private motor vehicles.
How do you do that? The political system don't allow you to do it.
Well, I can't. I understand that we need to change how we think in terms of policy, and that's why I said that.
You try to do that, you don't win a seat.
The short-term benefit we give to the people care about is not good for their long-term. And that's the issue that we have, and that's the issue, the fundamental issue of a change.
No, I have the illusion, you see, that while there is a majority turnoff, notice my words, a majority turnoff from the political parties, at least we would stand a chance if the political parties were to come together and say, look here, we have to solve this problem of inefficient public transportation. Otherwise, we are all going to be poor.
Yeah.
Well, you have to be in charge. I want to be in charge of
No.
And let me tell you something. It is the easiest way to improve the standard of living,
Well,
because
we could argue.
If
Suppose
someone
we argue
have
that
car payments to make,
Yeah,
that is straight disposable income.
Suppose we were to be able to argue that on the political platforms, but the people who are supposed to lead that them no business with that. Them have chauffeur, them have escort car, and them have siren, and they block every bloody rule of the road. So,
when it gets
look
big-
here, I'm beginning to sound like Perkins now, man.
Give me a real thing, man. Not sound like Perkins.
But that is what
Tell
it
me
is.
something that you know. If tomorrow morning the Prime Minister
Look here, you and I
and the
could do,
leader of the opposition,
you and I and Dennis could do it if we had we don't, but we have the opportunity. We could do it.
aye, you just asked the question. You and I and Dennis could do it, but we don't have the political support.
So-
and we couldn't do it without the political support.
No, well, our corner is dark.
Anybody who tried to do it lose political support.
Well, so what a price. So in order to keep political support, you have samfai people for their long-term detriment. That's what Dennis is saying.
call it samfai, but them don't call. We don't call it samfai, and I'm not. You are not taking myself out of it. A lot of things that I could say that sound good
No.
in the voice,
It's more
don't
than
sound good in the ballot.
This is why our dollar is now 155 to 1 and climbing high all the way.
I mean, so no, but Dennis is helping us today because what he's saying is, look here, let's shift the argument from the arid discussion about who should say what and who is embarrassed by what. Secondly, we should get to the issue of productivity, improve productivity. And I'm asking us that we certainly should set a target of a 2% increase in total factor productivity every year for the next 10 years. Yes? What a difference that would make, Dennis.
That would make,
Okay.
setting that target and working towards it.
Sure. And we're going further on the public eye. We are saying that there are certain particular things that we could do. First of all, we are awash with money in the private sector and in the state sector too, if the truth be known, and therefore we have to look at how we use it prudently to achieve things like an efficient public transportation system, a greater linkage between primary or agro-industry and the tourist sector, okay? And certification and training of advanced level workers so that we have who can do value-added tasks. I mean, if what prevents us from doing that now? We're not short of the money. I don't believe we're short of the smarts. And the political system ought to be sufficiently malleable if it has any noble purpose to broker this and to encourage it. It won't be easy. It will mean bruises for certain people, but it can happen to the benefit of
My
us
man
all.
just called me and said he agree with it. 3 things you just say,
Right.
but he wants you to come back for 30 seconds to tell him how could we get that put in operation.
Okay, so I'm going to leave that to Mr. Chung because you and I are retared politicians. Yes. Chung, I don't know what his politics are, but Dennis, you no, but speak to you're an informed citizen. Speak to the political economy and how it needs to respond to this. Does it require cooperation rather than contention? Does it require a different type of representation? Does it go to the issue of governance generally, constitutional arrangements? Spend a minute on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, everything goes back to governance and leadership. That's a primary issue. And not leadership just on government point of view, also leadership in terms of the opposition, leadership in terms of the private sector, in terms of civil society, right? And there needs to be some consensus on how we're going to move forward. There should be certain things that are not debatable. One of the things I point out to is that we talk about that we want to get a good public transportation system in place. But then the argument when we go to Parliament is, JUTC lost $2 billion this year. That is not encouraging us to move in the right direction, right? The argument in Parliament should be, listen, why is it that we are not able to provide this system of proper transport at JUTC? Is JUTC efficient? Are we delivering what people want? We don't speak about what the people of Jamaica should get and want,
Dennis, you just touched 2 important points. Let's get back. Just explain to me what the people of Jamaica want and how you get it to them, right? And have the political system in the 2 parties agree on that. if you can tell me how to do it, I go back around tomorrow morning.
Well, I think that what
because the crown is still the prize that everybody wants to get to Jamaica House. Everything you do, the other one say it wrong. Everything this one do, that one say it wrong. You either do it better. It's a pitney business.
Yeah, and I think that, people always blame parliamentarians, right? But the truth is that we as a citizen need to demand what is in our best interest. And we have not been doing that for a very, very long time. We've been very selfish and looking at individual things, right? But civil society also has a role to play in it. And look at these long-term things, right? We tend to focus a lot on short-term issues, right? So we have a problem right here now, and everybody focuses on that, right? And that will filter up into the people who represent you, right? And when that happens, you start to see change. We are seeing some things happening, and over the years, for example, one of the things I always speak to about PJ Patterson that he started was the build out of the highways. You realize that if we did not have the highways, what sort of chaos we would have now, and even lower productivity.
Well,
the infrastructure build out that's happening right now under this government is a good thing. But as I always say, we shouldn't be keeping people over St. Thomas for 2 years.
Well,
in a constant build out.
Strong
right?
point,
so
Dennis. Time has run out on us. Thank you for the input. Grateful. I wish we could just find a way that we could agree to do some of those things. Much obliged.
Yeah, man, no problem.
Take care.
Okay,
Dennis Chung, Chartered
you.
Accountant on the Public Eye. This is The Bridge. Soon come back. Thanks for being with us on The Bridge 99 FM. This is The Public Eye. The Honorable Colonel Charles Sr. and myself are the hosts. And we link with the diaspora, the Jamaican diaspora all over the world on The Bridge 99 FM. And we welcome Safri Brown. Welcome. Hi.
Hi, good afternoon. Afternoon, everyone in the diaspora.
Well, Safri, thanks for joining us. I'll tell Pernell we reached out to Keith Duncan, who is the leader, I think, of Project Star, and he's doing fatherly duties in Canada with his son, and he said Safri can do it. Safri Brown, director of Project Star, tell our audience what Project Star is, what the background is, and if you can, tell how people listening to us can help.
Okay, I was getting a little bit of a breakup. Are you hearing me clearly?
Hearing you clearly. You go ahead. I was asking, perfect. Describe the project for us and tell us how we can help.
Wonderful. Okay, so Project Star is a public-private partnership. It's an initiative of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica in partnership with the JCF, but it really is a whole-of-society approach. So we very much work across public, private, civil society, and communities to develop and implement strategies that are led by the community to really bring about sort of social and economic change and transformation for communities.
The JCF is the Jamaica Constabulary Force?
Yes, the JCF. So it is an initiative of the PSOJ and the JCF.
Oh, that's unusual for the police to be involved with this. Good, but unusual.
Yeah, well, a big part of what the police does is, they have these strategies that they do what they call clear and hold.
Do they?
But what's supposed to follow the hold is the build. And so what they recognize is that they would need additional support with regards to, obviously, the building of communities. And so working with Dr. Paris Luai, we were able to identify sort of community, rank them according to their levels of vulnerability as it relates to both crime and violence. And then from that, select communities that were really, really vulnerable and volatile and target the build phase so that the police don't necessarily have to constantly stay in a state of holding communities, that they're able to then create more sustainable solutions. So it very much is that approach and requires everybody at the table.
No, but wait a minute, because there's a presumption in what you have said, that if in fact communities can be lifted in terms of, I suppose, infrastructure and social facilities, then crime will decrease?
Yeah, so
who says
very
that?
Much that the community, that communities can drive their own change. And what they really need is a system of support, of sort of sustained and ongoing support to be able to drive the change that needs to happen. We focus on data and evidence-based approaches, so we make sure that we work with the community to identify approaches that have been proven to work to be able to drive those strategies. And the assumption is that if you increase resilience, if you improve opportunities, if you provide sort of more sustained social protection, you reduce the vulnerabilities of a community, and in reducing vulnerabilities, you can invariably reduce crime and violence over time.
That is a revolutionary concept because presumably, well, first of all, there are many people who think that that crime is some congenital defect in a certain race of people or a certain class of people, and that it has nothing to do with their social conditions. On the one hand, and secondly, there have been so many efforts, Alfred Brown, to improve the social conditions of these communities, which you're going to perhaps tell me one or two, where one or two are, and what's going to be the difference this time round with Project STAR?
Yeah, I mean, so, those are really important questions. We're actually in 3 communities. We're in East Downtown Kingston, which is Parade Gardens and Rose Gardens. We're in Savannah Lamar in an area called Seaton Crescent and the surrounding communities. And we're in Maypen, in what we call West Maypen, Havana Heights, Racetrack, and Treadlight. I think there are a number of issues. So one of the big issues is that people talk about the fact that social interventions haven't been able to really bring about the massive transformation that we seek. But when you look at the actual sort of community-wide transformation projects, there haven't been that many. Over time, most of the interventions specifically target a specific group. As you know, they'll target an at-risk employment program for 16 to 24-year-olds. You can't change the overall outcome of a whole community by just focusing on one cohort. What STAR is aiming to do is to work across all sectors. So we do work very closely with government, we work very closely with private sector, we work very closely with civil societies, very much led by the community to identify and drive the strategies.
So what are you doing, for example?
I just want to talk through the work that we're doing with government. And we work with government at different levels. So obviously on the ground, we work with FCC and JSIC and other partners to deliver. But we also work with the Planning Institute of Jamaica, with the MDAs, to really look at the STAR model, to really identify what the gaps are, and to make sure that we're mainstreaming the approaches and really using STAR communities as a sort of testing ground for a methodology with everybody at the table around this kind of cross-pollination approach.
So what kinds of things are you doing?
So what we do, again, remember, so East Downtown Kingston, STAR in East Downtown Kingston is going to look different to STAR in Savannah Lamar because it is based on what the needs are in the community. So what we do is we do the mapping and we do the baselining to identify what are the issues. We work with the community to really peel back and understand those issues and then to develop and deliver the strategies with the NGOs, the community-based organizations, the government agencies, and so on. So, for example, in East Downtown Kingston,
yes,
some of the early strategies have been to look at social cohesion, to really bring back sports into the community as a key component of being able to build cohesion and youth engagement. To then use sports as a conduit to create opportunities for pathways into employment, training, and into economic opportunities. Work has also started with regards to improved parenting, identified as one of the main issues with regards to the community, both in Rose Gardens and Parade Gardens. So work has started around parenting programs. School attendance in basic schools was another massive issue, especially coming off the heels of COVID. And what they recognized is that a lot of kids were not coming back to school because parents couldn't afford breakfast and lunch, and they were keeping them at home. So we were able to develop and deliver a school feeding program in the basic schools. What that saw was in one school, attendance rose as much as 35%, but overall it raised by about 17% in schools. So again, we're using methodologies that we know work to address issues, and we're monitoring as we're going. Now what we're doing with the basic schools is looking at a more sustainable model of a school feeding program that can be delivered long-term. And so those are some of the strategies that we started. As again, the employment program is really about getting people into jobs. You have a lot of people in communities who want jobs. And so the first group that we focus on is those who want and are ready for jobs. We work to get them into jobs. And then over time, you work more closely with those who you consider at risk, hard to reach, to develop opportunities for them again through things like sports and other activities. So that's just in East Downtown Kingston. In Savannah Lamar, we're looking much more at entrepreneurship. Because that's been identified because there's an issue with regards to people wanting, the history of people wanting to access jobs. They want to focus on entrepreneurship. We are looking at providing more training and access to jobs in tourism and working in those specific areas, and overall looking at kind of community enterprise development as a strategy for economic growth.
Can I disturb you? I would suggest, based on what I'm hearing, that a non-political organization is coming on stream. Would I be correct?
Yes, we're completely non-political.
Right. Okay. But when you come on stream, you're challenged between one or other of the political system, because are you coming on stream hoping to improve the system, hoping to get one on your side or both on your side, or hoping that you will, the game changer will be you become the big man?
No. So STAR isn't looking, so it's a good question. When we talk about sort of political, we look at it at different levels, right? We work very much at the government agency level, right? These are agencies of the people of Jamaica. So we work at the SDC level, JSIF level, PIOJ. These are entities that will be driving and have been and will continue to drive development in Jamaica. So we work very much to that level. At the local level, we work to make sure that all representatives are aware of the work that STAR is doing. We make sure that they're always welcome to the work that STAR does. And we engage with them in more of a kind of collaborative way in terms of the work that they do versus the work that we do. But they're always welcome to participate in the work that we're doing. But it's not driven or led by local political representatives. We do have sign-off by the Prime Minister and by the Leader of the Opposition with the STAR model. And so really what we do, and again, this is an important component of how STAR operates, is we're very clear in terms of our data and our decision-making and how we make decisions about the kind of work that is done in the community, where resources are targeted, what the strategies are that are being delivered. We think that if you're able to really demonstrate your methodology and you're able to share your methodology, then you're able to remove these ideas that it can be sort of a political response. We are guided by data, which drives us. We share the methodology, we share the approaches. If you look at any of our reports, you'll see that we share the methodologies and toolkits that we use and how we're making decisions about the kinds of strategies that are being developed. And we think that that's an important component to building trust, to being also able to share the approaches so that people can understand what's really involved when we talk about community development. The other component is that STAR doesn't deliver all the interventions ourselves. We work through partners. So we work through the government in terms of the work they have to do. We work with them to open up and make sure that the communities, residents that need access to pass are able to access pass. Yesterday we had pass down there in East Downtown, registering some people, again making sure that we're providing better access and representation. We also work with Heart come in and deliver our job placement training. We don't go and deliver that training, but what we do is bridge the gap between the training and the employment. And so we work through partners for them to deliver, but really what we're doing is we're really bringing everybody to the table and collaborating and driving in that way.
Let me tell you something. When I listen to Keith Duncan, I feel good of some of his presentation on behalf of a certain sector of the society. But I am also well aware that we have two major political parties that unless you are heading in the direction of one or the other, you're going to have a problem. And Rani and myself has been looking at it and say, how can we get the two political parties as a political system to go in a direction that Duncan himself and others want to go? And Rani, I don't know if you have come with an answer yet, but I'm worried that soon and very soon, organizations like this one that we're talking to get frustrated.
Well, how sustainable is Star Safari? And how do you see it? How long do you see it working in a particular area? Is it going to be a permanent feature in those communities and others, or does it have a set of objectives and then you're out?
It's interesting. So it's an important question. And STAR is working at a number of levels. Obviously, at the community level, which is really important. We aim to be in communities for 4 to 5 years. That's doing direct interventions in the communities. But a big part of the work that we're doing in communities has to do with building back that kind of community governance structures, really supporting the communities to step forward and get that kind of collective efficacy and be able to drive a lot of the change. So it's a lot of supporting the local community-based organizations to deliver. That's a big part of what STAR is doing. But at the other level, we work through the MDs, again through the PIOG, with the MDs, to really try and see if we can mainstream with them an overall approach to community development. And thirdly, we're really trying to bring back the focus within Jamaica on the importance of properly resourcing and supporting communities in Jamaica. Now, we have to move away from this idea that communities do not need specific services, and I'm not talking about municipal services. All communities in Jamaica need football programs for youth. All communities in Jamaica need community-based educational support programs. All communities in Jamaica need these basic things, and so we've got to move away from this idea that you can always projectize these things. They have to be mainstreamed. They have to be provided by the government, by the agencies, and the rest of us can support and strengthen and sort of further build on. But we have got to start moving back into the direction. And so we're doing work on, for example, looking at what is the minimum provision that a community should expect in terms of access to community health information, in terms of access to youth programs, in terms of access to environmental programs. Who's supposed to be delivering what? And then we want to really test those with STAR communities to see, are the communities getting the minimum standards across the board? And where are they not being met? And really work through the government and our partners to really bring the communities up to that minimum standard. The goal is to develop that model of, what's really supposed to happen in regards to government, but also with regards to access to jobs, access to opportunities, and all these sorts of things to really develop a sustainable model. But you can't develop a sustainable model with a project. It has got to be mainstreamed. That's where the sustainability of any intervention comes in. And the truth is that most communities, especially the 100 communities that the PIOG has identified as being vulnerable and volatile, do require ongoing service provision in multiple areas. And we have to bring those conversations back to the fore.
I thought that was a responsibility of the state, but let's not argue that. Who pays for STAR, Zafri Brown?
So again, STAR is a sort of mixed financing model. So initially we were funded, sort of first years of funding was funded by the private sector. In fact, we've got a multi-year commitment from private sector of about 350 million. And we've also we're on our JSSE campaign, so if anybody would like to donate, they can contribute to STAR, they can be part of the change.
That's a Jamaica
the Jamaica Social
Stock Exchange, yes, good.
Yeah, and remember, one of the things I know that the diaspora have always wanted to support Jamaica, but have a huge issue with regards to reporting and accountability, is because we've gone the route of listing on the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange. We have very stringent reporting requirements.
Good.
And so they would be able to get the reports to see what's happening, where the money is going, exactly what's happening, and not just one report and then it's done, but for the next 5 years.
Right.
They'll be getting their reports on STAR. So it's a really good way of investing and seeing what's happening with that investment in Jamaica.
Okay, and then is there a contact information, a website, an email address people listening to us may want to utilize?
Website is projectstarja.com.
projectstarja.com,
and you can sign up for the newsletter.
Right.
Or you can also donate on that platform, or you can email connect at projectstarja.com.
Yeah. Mrs. Safri Brown, I do know the three communities you're in fairly well. And I'm just encouraging, maybe Mr. Charles will agree with me, some very simple things. If I appreciate the work, all the items you're doing. If, for example, though, we could get all of the children in those communities out to school on Monday morning, that would be a huge social uplift,
Yes.
I'm so grateful to hear that you're dealing with school feeding, because we know that some 30 to 40% of our children come to school hungry every day. So if that can be sustained, that would be a major step forward.
Absolutely.
If there was one book, not a whole book list, but if there was one book available for every child in those communities, you realize that would be a massive improvement on what there is now.
Yeah, but just before she answered that,
or garbage to be collected, or a pocket park in each of them. Sorry, Mr. Charles. You know, Mrs. Brown, those things are very tangible and very, I don't want to say easily achieved, but certainly they're possible.
Mrs. Brown, that's a for your answer. Let's take the education one. If you were able to do what you say you would like to do, and join it with what is being done, if both the JLP and the PNP, the government and the opposition agrees, what a difference it would make. Because we'd have a package for the people. Those who are left out of the political would be coming in, and those who are in the political. But is there a hope for that, Ronnie?
Well, I don't know what I really don't know much about STAR except what we're hearing now, you know. But I'm just trying to identify some very basic things that we can combine about.
Let's take education.
And just going to school. You know, we deal with roughly in those communities, roughly between 25 and 40% of children don't go to school every day for the week. If we could just get them to go 5 days, you realize what an increase in educational outcomes we would have?
Oh, no, they would be massive. I mean, I was down in Parade Gardens yesterday, and obviously, Mr. Thwaites, you remember the KRC Education Centre that was on Holborn Street.
Yes.
And every time I go down to Parade Gardens, I meet somebody who's doing something really interesting and exciting, and they say, yeah, they passed through that centre. You know, they were in school and they came there. They were in good high school, but when they came back into the community, that's where they went for homework support.
Sure.
You had the NET program for those who had fallen out of the school system and needed to get remedial education to get back in. But a lot of the community kind of activists, the people who are actively trying to build community, are people who they have jobs or whatever, but they've worked themselves through that homework program. But obviously the homework program and the centre closed down in the 2000s because of funding. And we've got to figure out a way to provide a more sustainable solution for community-based educational, not just in schools, but actually when they come back into the community. And one of the interesting things is, as an NGO practitioner, there's a certain way that we work in NGOs. There's a certain way that government works, and there's a certain way that private sector works. This is a really, really interesting model because it brings the best of the best together in terms of approaches and methodology. So that drive the private sector has, that commitment to the results and to making sure the results happen is a huge, huge part of what makes STAR really, really important. But also utilizing what we know are the principles of social development and how you engage communities and how communities can drive themselves forward. And you add on to that the strength of the kind of government agency systems and the kind of national development frameworks that exist and so on, you have a really, really strong model. And so this is why I think STAR is special and very different and can provide the results that we want.
Well, I hope so. If we were able to get all the children out into school Monday morning and make sure that they all had a meal, my goodness, the heavens would proclaim the glory of God.
Right, but you need to say too.
We have to close.
That a lot of children who are not going to school, bread and breakfast is provided for them.
Yes, that's what a meal a day.
There's a meal,
breakfast and lunch.
But they're not going to school.
Sure.
And a lot of them who are on path.
Yes.
Still not showing up.
Well,
and where the money is going.
Well, this is it. Money get mixed up. Zafra Brown, don't weary in well-doing. Thank you so much for telling us. Could you give us that connectivity with Project STAR again?
Email is connect@projectstarja.com, and the website is www.projectstarja.com. Please go sign up for the newsletter. You can also donate via that platform. But most importantly, sign up for the newsletter so you can stay informed and hear more about STAR.
Yes. Thank you so much. We'll keep up with you. We'd love to hear more on another occasion.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. Have a good evening.
Project Development, Project Director for Project
STAR.
And
I'm sure Mr. Duncan is listening and is proud of our presentation.
Well, I'm sure
representing him.
The Public Eye takes a break now. When we come back, Mr. Lenworth Fulton, the President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society, why are we importing chicken necks and backs over $1 billion worth when we can produce it here? Can we? Soon come.
Can we?
This is a public eye on the Bridge 99 FM, broadcasting to the Jamaican diaspora all over the world. The Honorable Colonel Charles and myself are the hosts, and we welcome Mr. Lenworth Fulton, the President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society. Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Ronnie.
Hi, welcome, sir. And you know Purnell.
Oh, indeed. From I was a boy and from he was a boy.
Listen to that now. Lenworth Fulton, we have a question for you. The Jamaica Agricultural Society represents and defends the interests of farmers in Jamaica. I feel embarrassed that I read in the press this morning that we are opening once again the licensing opportunities to bring in more of chicken neck and back, which American people and Canadian people don't want. They throw away those parts, and we are buying it, multiplying the price, and selling it to poor people as the only source or the major source of protein. Can we do better than that with our local production, Mr. Fulton?
We can, sir. We can. And I have advocated time and time again. But when you talk about chicken neck and back and turkey neck and back, it falls on deaf ears. I don't know why. Because it suppressed the local poultry industry, and it affects mostly the 10,000 to 12,000 small farmers who are in this business. You see, the poultry business is divided into two parts by two companies. You have the contract farming, which holds about 60 or 70% of the business. Then the other 35 or 40% are the small farmers, and that's the poultry business I'm talking. And they are the people that really keep these two big companies alive, because it is their bags of feed every day that give them the cash flow to operate, because the contract farmers take everything from the company and they won't get a penny from them until at the end of a batch of birds. So in between that, these small farmers are very important. And I can tell you that when you import chicken back, they can't sell their chicken. Everything is just in their refrigerator, and sometimes it's spoiled and all of that. So I don't think it's a good policy. But we don't in this country, Ronnie, and Mr. Charles, the Honorable Colonel Charles, have any import policy at all. Everybody does what they feel and bring here what they have. If they go on vacation and they see something and it eat nice and carry it in, a country cannot run like that.
Mr. Fulton, let me ask you. Can the small farmers and the large farmers who are producing chickens in Jamaica today satisfy the demand? No.
Yes, we produce 124 million metric tons of chicken yearly. We can. The problem is the price is a bit high, and that is not in terms of satisfying the demand. It's because we are unable as a country to move our per capita income from just about 5,000 to anywhere up to 7,500, 9,000.
So you're saying that the government should subsidize the small farmers, or farmers for that, in the production of chickens?
I'm not saying to subsidize.
But how would you get it in the market if they are not doing it now? And the ministry says, listen, the people are calling out, they want more meat, they want more chicken, they want more back, and you guys are not producing it. So we have to open the market for them to come, for them to have a Christmas.
That's not true, Mr. Charles. We are self-sufficient in poultry and pork. We are self-sufficient in poultry and pork. There might be few instances that might cause poultry production to fall. What we need to look on is an alternative way to get the feed. If we continue to import the feed through two oligopolies, then there's no control there, and that's why we have government to break up oligopolies and to create competition and to create new avenues of cottage industries and so on that can make feed. We need to explore that.
Hold on, Mr. Fulton. You say that we are self-sufficient which means that the farmers, large and small farmers, are able today to produce all the chicken, neck and back, and wings and everything that we need in Jamaica?
I don't know about the amount of chicken neck and back we produce. It's just about 15% of what the country eat because of poverty. But when you come to chicken meat, we are self-sufficient in it. We don't have to import any chicken meat in Jamaica. Because we have three factions, the two companies and the small farmers.
That's Jamaica broilers, Caribbean broilers, and the small farmers. But
right.
The question is that obviously there is a need for cheap protein. Chicken is preferred, but the article in the press today indicated that the chicken neck and back, which is virtually a throwaway item where it come from, can be imported at under $100 a pound, and it is selling for $300 now. No, if the reason why we do it that way, Mr. Lenworth Fulton, is because there are certain people in high places who benefit exponentially from it. Can we talk it straight now? Chicken neck and back under whichever government if you get a container of chicken neck and back, you're rich. You're rich, and it's only certain people get it. Come now. When I was in Parliament, I asked the government to give me a list of all of the importers of chicken neck and back. And when you got that list, I didn't embarrass anybody, but I went through that list and checked the people involved. And some of the highest politicians in this country are there, and others. There's no doubt.
You're correct. You're correct, Ryan.
I know what I'm saying.
Remember, yes, politician or private sector people there too.
Both.
No, but then don't emphasize politicians.
I do, because politicians are supposed to defend the public interest. I do not expect
but maybe they
private
can't
sector to
cheaper.
do that. No, sir, they're not. Really.
No, it sounds like a joke, but to be honest with you, you are correct. We need to have a steady flow of protein to the people at a price they can afford.
So what I want...
I am still not sure that the present producers of chicken, large and small farmers, are able to do that.
So let me answer you. Mr. Fulton can correct me. Even if it cannot be done now, I would be satisfied, I would praise God, if we could set out a plan that said, this is it, we have to import the necks and backs 2023, but this is where we are going.
Yes.
Here is the deliberate support for the growing of legumes, Mr. Fulton.
Of course.
Yes. Here is the deliberate effort again to grow some sorghum and some soya, or to source it in a way. Here is some encouragement to the small farmers to produce something that would sell in the region of the $300 that the people are now paying for the foreign necks and backs. Yes,
right.
But would give all of the input, or not all, but significantly more of the input retained in the small farming sector in this country. Because every one of us who has been a small farmer, and I certainly have been, you need to do some little livestock to catch you up, whether you're in coffee or in cocoa or in pimento or in anything else.
That's your insurance money, Randy.
But beg you some. I know that. So why don't we trust ourselves? Why don't we spread the benefit of the little money where we have, rather than continue to concentrate it in a few hands who can get.
Ronnie, I want you and Mr. Fulton to convince me about one thing. I am not convinced.
Yes, sir.
The government has announced that they are going to allow the import of chicken neck and back in the country.
Yes.
Is that going to affect the production of chicken neck and backs by the small farmers?
Mr. Fulton has to answer that. He knows whether
yes,
that
it will
affects
affect
the market.
The production of chicken, mostly from the small farmers, because the two large companies have had their distribution line well laid out in Jamaica. The hotels, restaurants, supermarket. So it won't affect them much. And chicken production is one that can be controlled. So it can be controlled from the baby chick that is produced by the two large companies.
I used to be a chicken farmer in Westmoreland.
Right.
Yes.
But whenever what we have asked for, Mr. Charles, is that you find out the US dollar value of what is imported and use that to ease the burden from our foreign exchange problem. Use that to subsidize some level and get it to the people cheaper. And that could be a mechanism that will work, because all countries in the world subsidize some level of food and medicine for their vulnerable people.
Mr. Fulton, you are a big man in this system. And what you have just said a while ago touched a special little spot in my brain. You are saying that if the government has to find foreign exchange to import chicken neck and back, if the government use part of that money to uplift the production capacity of small farmers and large farmers in Jamaica, there's no need to import?
Yes, sir, that could work, because it's a craft that we know here. Chicken production is well known in Jamaica.
This is what sent picnic to school in Lime Tree Gardens in St. Anne. This is what make sure you have a money when you have to take transport and go to doctor. Yes, this is what put your own dinner on a Sunday, because you can sell a fowl and somebody will buy it. I used to find that the market for the locally produced chicken that I was producing was okay until the neck and back trailer bus Sablamar. And then there was no market for what I had, or less of a market. No, there is a challenge, because what I was producing had to sell for more than the necks and backs, what left from America. But we have to, all I'm saying is we have to narrow that gap in our own broad interest, rather than continually ensuring that the rich and the enabled in this country get richer.
Is that what the minister is saying? That he can import or allow chicken to be imported cheaper, getting to the small farmer than what they're doing now?
Of course he is, but that he doesn't follow that argument, because Mr. Fulton will know that if we were to source chicken, good chicken, whole chickens on the international market, the two big companies in Jamaica would be out of business in 6 months.
Well, they were about to put out here, look, from the day mentioned.
Because the amount of duty that we, of course, the amount of duty that we put, yes, supports them. But we and I'm not against that. But what we do is support certain people, and all credit to them, yes? All credit to them. I sat on the board of one of those companies for a long time. But what we don't support is the small farmer of this country. In fact, we reduce him to what George Beckford called persistent poverty.
But isn't the big companies...
I changed it as perpetual poverty.
The big companies that create these small farmers.
They support them to some
extent. They're the one that are
none of those
producing for them.
Help me, Mr. Fulton. None of those, that's the contract farmers, but none of the 200 and odd thousand more have a chance of really springing into market and doubling their production in a way that could be if there was a different way of doing the chicken necks and backs, generally to reduce it. Am I right, sir?
You're right, sir.
So Mr. Fulton, what is being done that could produce feeding to the small farmers that they could produce that?
Well, there were a number of suggestions. One, that we should look on the CARICOM region and areas with larger landmass than ours, Guyana, Suriname, Belize, and set up joint venture companies that Jamaicans would own part of, which to develop, to grow corn and sorghum for feed. And it would have a secondary effect, good effect. It would develop the transportation system for the region. So a number of these things have been discussed, but all we are hearing about our investors is to come up with a new money plan where you put your money in and you grow this interest rate and that They're not interested in building multinational companies.
So the money. Let me paint a picture to you now. The money that you make from Next and Backs goes into build high-rise apartments, not in the agricultural sector. And Mr. Fulton, before you end, sir, let me ask you to both of us cry on Purnell's shoulder. It is almost impossible to get credit for agriculture in this country. Am I right, sir? Has it changed?
The only thing that changes is almost. You cannot get it.
So we are making ourselves more and more dependent.
But Ronnie, I would like to take this statement beyond this mic.
Yes, sir.
So I want an answer. You say that the small chicken farmers are unable to get.
You can't bust out. You can't borrow money.
You can't borrow money.
Because your market is likely to be overturned at any stage by an influx of Necks and Backs. Am I right, sir?
Yeah, you're right, sir. We could expand chicken here exponentially, but you need a third player.
We're going to get the Minister of Agriculture.
Yes, it would be good to talk to Minister Green because he is well familiar with it.
But I'm sure, but the question is not his familiarity. The question is what is his response? And we got his response on the page of the Gleaner this morning. Open up the market for the imports to come in. Yeah. My God.
How is that going to affect the large chicken farmers?
Not at all.
It won't affect
not
them
at all,
much
sir.
The large chicken farmers don't produce chicken neck and back.
No, they produce chickens and chicken parts, but they can most of the time they can hardly sell what they produce. And at the level of people who can buy their product, there is this under market that relies on the necks and backs. That is the underclass of this country, who we throw this little what left. I'm sorry to use such sharp language. Because that is what them can afford. Them can't afford Best Dress and CB.
Right.
Them can't do that.
Yes, but you are saying that the present productive effort of these farmers who are producing cannot satisfy the demand for the mass of people.
For very good reason. Because they're subject to a competition that they can never meet.
And the competition is the importation.
Of course. Just as when the frozen leg quarters of chickens had died decades ago under tragic circumstances, the frozen ones, Mr. Fulton, come in and disguise as necks and backs. Yes, that is when you hit the big companies.
Yes,
because they sell. It's an inferior product. Full of hormones, etc. But that is when it licked them. We're not really committed to feed ourselves and to feed ourselves in a most nutritious way, you know.
Running in short, an island economy cannot be opened to the world because we cannot expand our space. But by reality, we have to live within the restricted space we have. And we have to develop laws and policies to reflect that reality.
I would love to give the biggest prize and the biggest subsidy to, say, the Scientific Research Council or the University of the West Indies. One of the mistakes that we made, just to digress, is when we, 70 years ago, allowed the Faculty of Agriculture to go to Trinidad when we were dividing up the parts of the University of the West Indies.
Big error. Big error. Will never be corrected.
Okay.
Big error.
But I would love for our research to be properly funded to discuss ways in which we could even reduce our dependence on foreign corn and soya by 10%. You realize what that would mean, Mr. Letworth Fulton?
And it can be done, Ronnie. Plus,
of course.
we need to look on protein in a more holistic
Of course.
way.
The peas, the beans.
Lecky left us legacy here, and we are killing it. It's nearly dead now anyway.
Nearly dead.
I was in cabinet when Mavis Gilmore was Minister of Education. And she nearly cried when she tried to carry the agricultural school from Spanish Town to establish it in Portland as what it is today.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Has it gone much bigger than what she took over there?
No.
Well,
And are they training agricultural students only?
I don't know that there are many. I applaud what Case is doing, but I think that they can benefit from focus on meeting Jamaica's protein needs. I don't know if they've ever been. I certainly didn't challenge them this way when I was minister, and I should have, to say, listen now, you become the center for thought and training and technology in order to meet Jamaica's protein needs. And we leave ourselves totally vulnerable to the rest of the world.
But I thought that when I voted along with Mavis Gilmore to move it from on the hill here over to there, the expansion was technology.
No, that was good. Something has happened, sir. So don't feel regretful, but not enough. Am I right, Mr. Fulton?
you're right, sir, because I put a proposal some years ago that we can't do without a proper agricultural college. But I put a proposal to move it back on some lands in St. Catherine, that the school could benefit from all the structures and research at borders, and benefit from the intelligentsia from Kingston, the St. Catherine Plain, right back to Black River. You would have better lecturers, part-time lecturers, and more land. And we have to bear these costs if we want Jamaican to develop.
Well, that is worth consideration. I think what is done at Ebony Park by Hart is worthy, but it in scope, it is not nearly what we need, and therefore
exactly.
we end up paying more for what comes from abroad rather than supports our farmers. The only when I hear Mr. Charles, Mr. Fulton, speak of the richness of his peasant legacy in St. Anne, yes, 2 generations ago, we need to build back the rural economy, and you can't do that without enabling the small farmer. He will never be as efficient and as productive as a large combine, but he has an integrity that in social terms, in spiritual terms, and I believe in economic terms as well.
But you know what my daddy used to do?
Oh.
We used to go to school half day on Friday.
Yeah.
Because we have to carry tansy from the hills, go spread in the bank, in the yam field, right?
Right, sir.
Yes.
Now, the farmers...
And I knew him very well, too.
you know my father very well?
Very, very well, man. He and I used to talk often.
Well, look at that.
You're serious?
Yeah, man.
All right,
I remember you.
No, but Ronnie, quick.
Just a 2 seconds.
Just a 2 seconds.
I was much younger, though. And you park a Buick in my yard that broke down in Lumsden, you and Bruce Golden. And you had 2 bags of pig feed in it, and you gave it to my father.
but my mother said, Toria, come up to bump.
To bump.
But listen, but
make your point finally. We have to
quickly
go.
Though, I think that we need to have people coming in here. They need to call us here,
yes, sir,
and make the presentation, because this getting government participation into the productive section of the small farmers in Jamaica is a must.
How about the financial sector, which the Minister of Finance is prepared to let run riot in this country? You think they're going
we don't have a financial sector in us.
You think we are going to? You think we're going to respond to Mr. Fulton's
This is what I would like you and Mr. Charles to discuss one day, whether we have a money sector or a financial sector.
I promise you we'll do that. In the meanwhile, keep up your good work. So thanks so much for your company.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Lemuel Fulton, President of the Jamaica Agricultural Society.
But did I hear that Mr. Fulton say he's not going to run again? Do we need him there?
Well, I'm sure he will be engaged in agriculture, but he has served his time, and all of us must learn to move on, you know. So, sir, what a rich program we've had today. We started off with Mr. Dennis Chung and his concerns about productivity in the economy.
But I know that I'm going home to match the man at Redhill's a lot of questions, because we have not answered some real questions between management and worker, between production, local and importation. those are things between PNP and JLP agreeing with the third force that is coming.
Yes.
These are very important things that we need to agree on.
I promise that we will continue the Odyssey, the pilgrimage, next week, and particularly we're going to have a look at how the school year opens up. Wouldn't you agree to that? The readiness for school.
I think that me and you, or you and I, is the proper way. You're a grammarian. We need to go out and see what is going out there. We need to visit some of those schools.
We can share those experiences when we can. This is the Public Eye with the open man on the Bridge 99 FM, bidding everyone's great thanks for their company and listening today, and looking forward, if life is spared and the Lord tarries, next week Wednesday we'll join you on the Bridge 99 FM. Indeed. Thanks so much for your company. See you next time.